changes, such as the formation of real-time value chains that morph to anticipate and adapt to changing consumer behaviors before consumers even know those behaviors exist. We're living in what I call a hyper-connected world, a complex and interrelated global network of economic, social, political, and individual interests. In some ways, we are already seeing the impact of hyperconnectivity in the way the cloud is being used to shape social and political agendas, as well as business. Hyperconnected. If you were asked to identify the single greatest phenomenon contributing to global growth, prosperity, social, and political change over the past 200 years, what would you choose? Perhaps you think it's the acceleration of technology, or maybe it's improvement in healthcare, pharmaceuticals, transportation, telecommunications, globalization, or education. Yet one phenomenon underlies all of these changes, and it is the same one that will allow us to keep pace with the increasing rates of uncertainty and complexity in the future. It is the dramatic increase in connections. Now, this is not just an increase in person-to-person connections, such as those created through telecommunications or social media, or email, Facebook, or Twitter. Instead, it's an increase in connections between virtually every machine, device, process, and person. There exists an intricate and immensely complex mesh of unimagined scale and reach that we have only just begun to appreciate. Until now, what we've experienced are increases in connections that are separate, localized, and segregated. But what if all these segregated connections were suddenly part of a single, interconnected whole that worked in harmony? Today, that strikes chords of fear in most of us as we imagine the threat that such a coordinated body of information could pose to our security, our identity, and our intellectual property. For example, imagine that all the information about you, your personal history, data about your behaviors and experiences, and your communications, whether by phone, email, chat, or social networks, was combined in a way that captured the essence of who you are and what you do, and even what you might do. What if all this information was connected and was reliably and instantly available? Frightening? Of course it would be. But in the context of today's world, which is the equivalent of the worldwide West when it comes to the way these connections are handled, or more to the point, mishandled, what if that context changed? What if this chaos were tamed in such a way that it offered a nearly unlimited amount of value, both to you as an individual and to businesses? What if all the fears you have today about the way in which the Internet can create risk were eliminated, while all the ways that the Internet creates value were increased? What if there were new opportunities for you to work in ways that are financially, professionally, and personally more satisfying? What would that tomorrow look like, and how would you surf this vast tsunami of connections to get the most out of them, rather than be swept away by them? Answering these questions is the broad ambition of this book. But a discussion of this magnitude involves more than the image of a network of computers that can be used in the same way as an electric utility. While we'll start by using that idea as a springboard, the larger agenda for this book involves looking at a variety of forces that are driving fundamental changes in behavior for individuals, businesses, and nations. An agenda for this book. Cloud surfing covers a great deal of territory, so it's best to start with a broad scoping of the topics we'll cover in each chapter. While the order of the chapters has a natural flow and each builds on ideas in previous chapters, it's not critical that you read the book from front to back. Once you've made it through the first 2 chapters, feel free to rummage about. And to help in your journey, here's a brief synopsis of each chapter. We'll start in Chapter 1 by defining the cloud and separating it from the idea of a simple network of computers, a mistake often made by those who feel the cloud is nothing more than a marketing ploy that repackages mainframe computing time-sharing models that were popular back in the 1960s and 1970s. Then we'll look at some of the basic shifts in behavior that will occur as the information technology industry moves to a business model that extracts value based on behavioral patterns and influence rather than ones based on devices. This is a shift that will make consumers and user experience the ultimate products around which business will innovate. Then in Chapter 2, we'll talk about the evolution of economic models for the cloud, describing 3 distinct ways in which the cloud will deliver value over time. Then we'll look at how the socio-economic global climate is creating a perfect storm for the advent and fast adoption of the cloud. Most prominent among these socio-economic models will be the critical importance of time to community as a metric of cloud-based value creation. In Chapter 3, we'll